Hi, my name is Jeannie, and the topic for today is Buddhist concept of the three types of treasures and why we must develop the third treasure, which is treasures of the heart. So before I begin, I will tell you that the reason why I'm sharing this is because there is such a teaching of hope that would allow us to be able to cope in these uncertain times. So if you don't know anything about Nichiren Buddhism and you don't know about chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, you can listen to my explanation. So because of the world that we live in right now we live in uncertain times. There's a global pandemic that's killing hundreds and thousands of Americans, and also there's a pandemic that's killing not just the Americans, but also people around the world. And a lot of people right now are suffering economic uncertainties. Some people have lost their jobs. Some people are barely working, and some people, they're just really anxious because they're starting to lose their income and their homes, their house payments and stuff like that. And that's very scary. These are really scary times. And not only that, we have also social unrest right now. In America, there's a lot of social unrest, and also in the rest of the world. I heard there's a country that went through a tragedy, and the social unrest is starting even there right now. So because we live in such uncertain times, we really need a teaching that gives us hope, something that we can try that will help us cope with what is going on right now. So that's why I'm going to be explaining the three types of treasures: treasures of the storehouse, treasures of the body, and treasures of the heart. And according to Nichiren, which is the founder of Nichiren Buddhism, the treasures of the heart is the most important treasure of all. And later I will even read an excerpt from World Tribune, which is the magazine that Nichiren Buddhists read. So I will discuss that later. So on to the first treasure, which is treasures of the storehouse. What is it? So from the word storehouse, it means your material possessions. It means your money, so your wealth. So it could be all your properties, it could be all your cars, your clothes, the money in your bank, or bank accounts, all the properties and investments that you have. That is considered as treasures of the storehouse. Unfortunately, if you base your happiness on the treasures of the storehouse, you will only be happy temporarily, because we all know that you can easily lose all of your material possessions, especially right now. Some people are really struggling to make ends meet. So it's if you base your happiness on the treasures of the storehouse, your happiness will be temporary and will be based on external conditions. So to give an example or examples, we know of course, we've read about celebrities that had at one point millions and millions of dollars, but even that didn't make them happy. Some of them actually, we've heard it and we've read about it, that they would kill themselves, or they would turn to drugs and alcohol and do all sorts of destructive behavior, because even the money, all the money and the wealth that they have, is not enough to make them happy, And just to relate to personally, and my mom, when she was alive, she was very successful in her business. Actually, at one point, she had a lot of cars and she was buying houses and she was just giving it away. But when she lost it all, when her business tanked or she mismanaged her money, what happened was that she became very unhappy, because she based her life and her happiness on material possessions, on her wealth, on the amount of money that she had in the bank. And that was for her. If you base your life on that, if you base your happiness on that, the treasures of the storehouse, they can come and go. And of course, you've heard of people who not only lost it all, but even right now that they have a lot of money, but those people are very greedy and very selfish as well, and that leads to unhappiness. Their family is very unhappy, and they can be unhappy themselves, you know, because of all that suffering that they're creating. Because sometimes money, just money alone and material possessions, it doesn't really lead you to be more happy, you know, unless you really live a balanced life. So to relate, because I've met a lot of people, I used to deal with people before, like with my type of work, and also was part of a nonprofit organization. So I met a lot of successful people, and even right now with the course of my work, I have met successful people and not so successful people from all walks of life. But there was this one person that I met like years ago, and he was supposedly a billionaire, you know, and he was very humble. But what happened was that he died. He was murdered, actually. He was killed. And I am sure that even his wealth was not enough to prevent his family from not suffering, you know. And I also family friends or friends of my parents, they're very successful business people, but they have like rivalry in between their brothers and sisters are fighting, or the family members are fighting over money. And I think they had one of our family friends, actually, I think one tried to kill his brother or something like that kind of story. It's really bad, and we've heard even in my own family as well, just fighting, quarreling over money. And that is really, we know that once you base your life on that, or your happiness on that's only temporary happiness, because you can easily lose it all. And even if you have it, and you haven't developed that life state of appreciation, if you have all the money in the world, you could still be the most miserable person in the world. So that's treasures of the storehouse. So another treasure, the second type of treasure, is treasures of the body, which is our health right now. Right now we have a lot of people that are sick and recuperating from the virus, and unfortunately some of those people have not survived, and some of them are still fighting for their lives. So you know, so health is very, it's like a treasure, but in a way we can't really base our happiness on that, because sometimes we can get sick, and sometimes we can get really, really sick. And how can we cope then if we lose our health? And treasures of the body doesn't just pertain to health, it also pertains to your status in society. Let's say in your career, let's say you're like a former CEO, and we've heard people that have like a good social standing, and once they lose it all, they just become very unhappy. And also your social standing and your status in society has really nothing to do with your happiness, because we've met people that, you know, bosses and the top of the top, they're really unhappy and stressed out because they've also based their happiness on something that is outside of themselves, like their circumstances outside of themselves. So the third treasure is called the treasures of the heart, and it took me 13 years to finally get in. I'm like, why would I want to develop the treasures of the heart? And because I've been able to overcome so much difficulties in just like 6 years. Like, you cannot imagine the amount of difficulties, like what I went through. Sickness last year, and I also got sick a couple weeks ago. And you know, not just that, like even like not continuing with a certain company anymore. They didn't want to work with me anymore, and losing money as well, you know, and investments. But because I developed the treasures of the storehouse, or not the storehouse, treasures of the heart, because I developed the treasures of the heart, I was able to become like, by chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, I was able to develop the treasures of the heart, which is that life condition, that life state that no matter what difficulties that I encountered, I was still gonna be happy, you know? And it's like I was training all the difficulties that I encountered. I was actually training to be a more courageous person, to be stronger, and to just have that fortitude and tenacity to overcome things, and to develop that attitude that no matter what happens outside of myself, and whatever problems that I might encounter outside, I will still be happy because I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And what's the relevance of knowing the three types of treasures right now? So the relevance is that it will you will gain an understanding of how life really works. That if you base your life and your happiness on the external conditions, like the treasures of the storehouse and treasures of the body, your happiness will only be temporary, and you may only be happy when those conditions or certain conditions are met. But when you develop like that life force and that wisdom, which we really need to develop at this time, especially during the global pandemic, we really need to develop it. So you will gain an understanding that whatever is happening right now, it's only temporary, and that this will not last forever, and that there's no reason to despair, you know, and that there is hope. So in the 13 years that I've been chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, whatever problems that I've faced, like death of loved ones, and suffering losses, you know, financial losses, and even like you know, like losing a job and stuff like that, and even like my health as well. I was really sick last year, and also I got sick like a couple weeks ago. And knowing all of that, and despite all of that, actually I am still chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, because for some reason, and I actually told someone this, that I told someone that it was so strange that I'm so happy, and I don't even know why, you know, because the externally things are not really fine externally, you know, like the society right now, a lot of people are not doing well, but why am I still happy inside, you know? Because I've developed that treasure, or the treasure of the heart. I've developed my life condition, my life state, and my wisdom as well, that I know that things are going to be okay, and problems and obstacles are temporary, and that I shouldn't base my happiness on something outside of myself. I should base it on internal conditions, on, you know, just having that peace and that wisdom, and even that experience that, you know, this is all temporary, and problems eventually will be solved, and we will be better. We will, humanity as a whole will surmount this, and society as a whole will be able to surmount this, and that we must be happy for having the life that we have still, you know, and for being alive still, despite all the things that have been happening. And that's really, if you are a member, so this is just a reminder about the treasures of the storehouse. And if you have been chanting before, and you happen to accidentally clicked on this video, so maybe it's time to chant again. And if you have not heard of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, I'll provide a link below. Start chanting it right now and see how you can develop that indomitable spirit, that fortitude, that life force, that no matter what happens outside of yourself, that you're happy no matter what. And that is the gift of chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And frankly, it took me 13 years to get this, because I was always complaining before, like, you know, why am I chanting to develop the treasures of the heart, you know, why? And then now I know, you know, and it's so strange. Actually, a few years ago when I started chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, I met a Japanese woman and back home, and she actually introduced thousands of people to chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and she told me that she would chant for 3 hours for the happiness of the people, everybody, for the world's happiness. And it was so strange, and I thought she was strange, you know, because I've never met someone like that who would chant for other people's happiness. And that was my first encounter with someone like her, and she's told me, and she looked like it, and you could feel it. I literally, just standing next to her, I could feel her life force, her life condition, her spirit, or whatever you'd like to call it, her vibration. And she said that she was so happy, and I was like, why is she happy? Like, you know, and she just said, you know what, I'm so happy, and like, I'm very happy. And then I was like really puzzled, and but I knew she was chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and I said, okay, yeah, she's happy for no reason. And actually, after 13 years, I finally get it. I know what she means, because when I chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo in the morning, it's just, I can't explain it. It's that inner joy, that inner happiness that comes out, that you can't explain it. It's like, whoa, I want to feel like this every single day, because it's happiness that is not based on external conditions. It just is. It's just happiness. And that's the gift of chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And I really do suggest it, especially in this time, in these uncertain times. Try chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And I'm sure, like, maybe in a few years you'll bump into me, and I'm sure you'll tell me that you were right. You know, this does make me happy. I can't explain it. I'm happy inside. And that's the gift that I want to gift you. Chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo and be happy no matter what. So before I go, I will just read from the World Tribune. And this is, it's about the 3 treasures. Nothing can destroy the treasures of the heart. So this is in the Gosho. More valuable than the treasures in the storehouse are the treasures of the body, and the treasures of the heart are the most valuable of all. So from the time you read this letter on, strive to accumulate the treasures of the heart. So the 3 kinds of treasure, the writings of Nichiren Daishonin. For many, happiness can be difficult to grasp, but in the brief passage above, Nichiren Daishonin clarifies what's most important for experiencing true happiness. He identifies 3 main categories of treasures that people tend to value. Treasures in a storehouse refers to money and material wealth. Treasures of the body symbolizes our health, abilities, and social standing. And treasures of the heart indicates an inner richness or strength. On a more fundamental level, these treasures of the heart are the qualities we develop and store in our lives through deepening our faith. They can be described as an expansive state of life, abundant good fortune, vigorous life force, inexhaustible wisdom, and warm humanity. Because the treasures of the heart are key to building true happiness, Nichiren asserts that they are the most valuable of all. And that's it. So thank you. Hi, I'm also an author, and if you'd like to check out my other works, go to www.homeofgenie.com, and I'll check me out on Amazon as well and other sites. I will link below. And I write romantic comedies. The first book that I wrote was Love in the Time of the Trump Era. It's about the divisiveness and the polarization in America and how it affects relationships. It's really, really funny, and it's an interesting piece of history. It's a romantic comedy, but set in the real world, and I'm working on book 3. I also wrote Bullied Inc. It's about bullying, and it's about time travel. It's really a cute story, and I have an upcoming book, Finding Love in Wine Country, but it's under editing right now. I have Poppy Love, which is a cutesy romantic comedy. And I have book 2 of Love in the Time of the Trump Era, and I have other books that are upcoming as well. I'm working on Eat, Love in Sicily, which is a romantic comedy, but mostly about travel. It's really nice. So I'm writing it right now. So do check it out, and I'll link below. Yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy it.